My dad's soon-to-be fiancée, Margaret. Margaret got a promotion and out of nowhere, they announced she was pregnant. Then he had the audacity to demand I leave the house because they needed my room. I looked at him, deadpan, and said, "Honey, I own his house." The look on his face as his smug grin faded was a work of art. What followed was a complete and utter show. Here's what went down. This whole mess started about 9 years ago when my mom passed away from cancer. I was just 12, a total wreck, and nobody knew what to do with me. My grandparents lived on this decent chunk of land just outside the city with a solid old house. It just made sense for me to stay with them. Dad could come home on weekend and holidays, but even back then, I noticed he had this weird thing about control. He'd show up and immediately start rearranging things, telling Grandpa how to maintain the property and making decisions about my life without asking anyone. My best friend Alex lived 10 minutes away, so I was not totally isolated. That friend has been my ride or die since we were building forts in those backwoods. Here's the thing, tough. My mom was an only child and I'm an only child. When my grandparents started declining a few years back, guess who was the only name on the will? That's right, Emily inherited the whole damn thing. Given even Grandpa passed, the house, the land, his beat-held truck that still somehow ran, and a decent chunk of chain he had been sitting on. That had used my mom's life insurance to renovate parts of the house over the years, but that acted like it was this huge whale. I should be grateful he was invested in the place. I found out about the inheritance when the lawyer called me after Grandpa's funeral. Dad was standing right there. The look on his face was not embarrassment or guilt, but irritation, like I had just complicated his life by existing. Alex was there that day helping me sort through Grandpa's tools. After Dad walked away from that phone call, Alex just looked at me and said, "You own the house now. Damn thing, Thanksgiving is going to be awkward." We never discussed it again. Ooh. Dad just pretending it never happened and kept acting like he was the boss of the house, making all the decision and controlling everything. About 2 years after Mom passed, Dad started dating again. Nothing serious at first, just coffee and dinner. Fast forward to 6 months ago and he drops this bomb. He has a serious girlfriend, a 30-something entrepreneur named Margot, who came with 2 kids under 10 and enough emotional baggage to fill a whole therapy clinic. Margot had this whole young professional mom aesthetic going on. She drove a pristine SUV, wore those expensive brand hoodies, and had opinions about everything that she had to share whether you asked or not. Her kids, Callum and Mia, because of course their names sounded like a country club membership, with these perfectly groomed little skeepy-perts. The first time Dad brought her over, she walked around taking mental notes. This needs work, and that needs replacing. I caught her opening cabinets and checking expiration dates in the pantry. Your grandma had such interesting taste, she said, running her finger along the vintage wallpaper. The way she said lived in made it sound like trashy, but Dad just ate it up. Margot has such great design sense, he said. Her kids were even worse. Caleb, who was maybe 8, spent the whole visit touching everything he was not supposed to touch while maintaining perfect eye contact. Mia, the 6-year-old, knocked over Grandma's favorite plant and then looked at me like it was my fault for putting it where she could reach it. When I mentioned the plan, Margaret just laughed. Oh, kids will be kids. They are just excited to be in such a big house. Alex came by that evening and caught the tail end of their visit. After they left, Alex just looked around the living room. Well, she seems fun, they said. Nothing says I'm not planning to redecorate your entire life, like rearranging furniture on the first visit, but Dad was smitten. 3 months in, she had particularly moved in. Her car was in the driveway more than it was at his apartment. Caleb and Mia had claimed the guest room like they were planning to stay forever. The kids went from perfectly behaved little angels to absolute demons the second they got comfortable. Caleb would accidentally break my stuff and then act confused when I got mad. Mia would go through my room and mess with my things, then deny everything. Whenever I complained, Margaret would give me this wounded look at and suggest that maybe I was not used to having kids around. Dad naturally took his side every time, telling me they are just kids and to cut them some slack. By month 4, he was not even pretending anymore. She had gone from grateful guest to man of the house faster than you could say gold digger. She started small, rearranging the living room furniture while Dad was at work, then acting like it had always been that way. The real power move was how she started treating me like I was some deadbeat niece who had overstayed her welcome. She started making comments about my music being too loud after 9 p.m. because the children needed their sleep and some of us had real jobs in the morning. One day, Caleb asked why I didn't have a boyfriend when I told him to mind this business. He informed me that his mom said it was because I lived with my dad, like a loser. Dad's friend Margot, masked, slipped for a second. She told me maybe it was time I started acting like part of the family instead of some entitled teenager. The final straw came on Sunday when I came home from Alex to find Margaret had rearranging my room. My desk was in a different corner, my posters had been taken down, and my bed was made with different sheets. "What the hell are you doing?" I said. Laugh, he said automatically. I was just organizing things a bit. Your room was starting to affect the energy of the whole house. I pointed out that it was my room. We all live here, Dad said, and we all need to contribute to making it a pleasant environment. I told them I didn't want his help. I want him to stay out of my room. "Watch your tongue, kid," Dad demanded. I said no. My dad's face went purple. "You need to apologize to her now," he said. I told her I was not apologizing for anything. 3 weeks later, I am minding my own business when my dad and Margaret called me into the living room for a family meeting. I thought maybe they were finally going to announce they were getting married. Boy, was I wrong. Margaret delivered the news like she just won the lottery. I got a promotion, she said, beaming, and I'm pregnant. She's glowing with this smug satisfaction that screams, "I have looked this down." Then he dropped the bomb. "We have been thinking about the future with the baby coming. We are going to need to make some major changes around here. More space, better organization, a proper nursery, adult living arrangement. It's time for you to experience some independence." My dad was nodding along. "Most people your age have moved out," he said. "It's time you had some responsibility." Margaret explained that she had an apartment in the city I could rent for a significant discount. My room would be the perfect nursery, and his mother would need the guest room to help with the baby. "You want me to move out of my own house?" I asked, playing along to see how far they had to go. "It's the best solution for everyone," Margaret said with that sleepily sweet home. 2 weeks later, I came home to find Margaret in my room with cardboard boxes, packing my stuff like I had already agreed to move. Hi, sweetie, she said. Just helping you get started with packing. Your dad had decided it would be better to get you moved sooner rather than later. He has holding up one of my mom's framed pictures. Besides, some of the stuff probably needs to be updated anyway. You can't hold on the childhood things forever. Put that down and get out from my room. Now, I demandly, listen, little girl, she said, his voice sharp enough to cut glass. I'm pregnant with your father's child. This house needs to work for a real family, not some overgrown teenager who can't handle the idea of growing up. You can either pack your stuff like an adult, or I can have your dad explain to you why this is not negotiable anymore. She told me they had already hired movers for Monday. That's when I pulled out my phone and started recording. Say that again. You are evicting me from my house? My dad's face went red, but I kept recording. The house that belongs to me, I clarified. Margot scoffed. It belongs to this family. I look at Dad, whose name is on the deed. Through agonizing silence, my dad finally admitted that legally, yes, the house was in my name, but he tried to say but. I cut him off. There is no but. Legally, this is my house, and you just told me you were evicting me from my own property. The color drained from Margot's face as he realized his entire plan had just imploded. You can't be serious, he whispered. You are just a student. The student? Thus, I showed him the screen and inherited it from my grandparents. House, land, everything, all mine. He sat down hard on my bed. But your dad? He pays for everything, I said. On my property like a tenant. He renovated this place with my mom's life insurance money to improve my house. When you decided to evict me from my own house and turn my bedroom into your nursery without asking, yeah, that's not going to fly. I decided to deploy the declare option. I spent the weekend with Alex doing legal research and out. My dad and Margaret were tenants at will, and I could evict them with 30 days notice. I could also sue for fair market rent for the entire time they had been living there rent-free. My dad would owe about $2 million for 9 years. Margaret got off about $15,000. It was time for a family meeting. We need to talk, I said, setting the folder of legal documents on the coffee table. This is about your housing situation. I pulled out the eviction notice. You are both being evicted. 30 days notice affected immediately. My dad exploded. You can't do this. I'm your father, you little watch me. Margot screamed. That's illegal. You can't kick out of a pregnant woman, I laughed. Actually, I can. When they found the part about back rent, their faces went white. You can't be serious. I was dead serious. I told them they could avoid the lawsuit by evicting with 30 days and signing an agreement not to pursue any claims against the property. Week 4. My dad suggested we could work something out. I could pay you rent to stay, he said. Market rate? We can make it official. No, I said. You had a chance to treat me with respect and have a conversation like an adult. Instead, you tried to force me out of my own house. Actions have consequence. That's when the real fireworks started. Margaret filed complaints claiming I was evicting him because of his pregnancy status. The judge basically told him you can't claim discrimination when you are being evicted for trying to illegally evict the actual property owner. Case dismissed. But the real bomb came during week 5. I was at Alex when my dad called, and his voice sounded wild, shaky. We need to talk, he said, about the baby. I went home to find him sitting at the kitchen table with a stack of papers. Paternity test results. The baby is not mine, he said quietly. Margaret had been lying this whole time. She'd had a paternity test done for health insurance, and it turned out the baby was not his. It was her ex-husband's. Where was Margaret now? He just left. She had confronted her, and Margaret had tried to say the test was wrong. Then she'd said it didn't matter because Dad would be a better father than his ex anyway. When that didn't work, she said she was abandoned him and the baby, and how could he be so cruel to throw out a pregnant woman? My dad told me he screwed up. I choose a woman I barely know over my own daughter. I tried to kick you out of your own house for someone who was lying to me from day one. Yeah, you did. I said, you don't get to come crawling back now that your gold-digging girlfriend turned out to be exactly what everyone except you could see she was. He flinched. It was not like that. He said it was exactly like that. You just got caught. He was quiet for a long time. So what happens now? He asked. Now you move out. As we agreed, I said that night, Marga left with her kids. My dad moved out 2 days later, rented a 1-bedroom apartment across town, and took only his personal stuff, left behind all the furniture he had bought, all the improvement he had made, everything he had invested in the house that was never his. Alex came over the day after Dad left, bringing drinks and pizza. You will ever forgive me? Forgive him, they asked. Maybe, I said, but not today, and not because he got caught being an idiot. Fair enough, they said. So, what's the plan now? Finish school, enjoy living in my own house without anyone trying to steal it. Maybe get a dog. Sounds like a plan. Now that I have shared my story, I'm curious to hear from you. Have you ever had to deal with a difficult family situation or stand up for yourself when no one was on your side? Share your story and tell me what you did. If you related to this story, hit that like button. And if you are new here, be sure to subscribe for more.